Hey guys, welcome back to Zane Customs. In this episode we're going to be sculpting an Enderman from the video game Minecraft. So I started this sculpt off in an app called Forger on the iPad, which if you've seen any of my other videos you'll be familiar with because that's how I start all my sculpts off in. And if you've played Minecraft you also will be probably familiar with this pose I'm going for here, which is an Enderman hunching over grabbing a dirt block. And again, if you've played it, you'll know that they go around and they steal blocks. So that's just what I'm going for. Because I'm going for a more realistic take on all these Minecraft characters I'm going through, I still want them to be pretty easily recognizable as what they are, just a realistic version. So having him hunched over stealing a dirt block is going to be pretty obvious that he's an Enderman. Now, if any of you have ever played Minecraft, you'll know that you can attack the Enderman and they'll attack you back, and they can be pretty intimidating in that sense, but I never really felt like they were creepy or scary, and that's what I wanted to go for here, where I want them to look like an Enderman, and obviously Minecraft is blocks, so it's not really creepy, but you taking that into the real life, you could obviously twist it and make an Enderman pretty creepy, which I'm fine with a little bit, but I always felt like Minecraft had a kind of childlike, friendly sense to it, so I still want to keep him not too creepy. And you'll notice with his face I kind of go back and forth between a lot of things because I want it to still look kind of friendly. You also notice here even though I'm already well into the sculpting stage, I'm still repositioning and stuff, which is something that I try to do ahead of time, but you're going to run into it if you're not liking where it's going, then you got to go back and forth. And like right there, his arms, going back to the reference images, go down almost to his legs, so I had to extend those. And then as you can see here, his face, he was looking like a skull, pretty heavy for a minute there, but I kind of toned it back. And I know I'm doing realistic variants, but I still want all my sculptures to be a little boxy, not too much obviously, but like his head doesn't look like a real human skull or humanoid skull. It's a little more boxy, and same with the Ender Dragon I did a couple videos ago. His head was still kind of boxy. I looked at a lot of pictures of hippos to have inspiration because their heads are kind of boxy, and that's just one thing I'm trying to carry over, where there's still going to be a realistic variation of a Minecraft mob, but I want to leave a little bit of the boxy Minecraft nature in there. And you might be wondering how far I'm going to take a certain sculpt in Forger. It really depends. With this one, it's just one character, it's simple. So I thought I could possibly take this all the way in just Forger, just be easy on my iPad. And then the app crashed. So push it over to ZBrush because you don't have to deal with that nearly as much. I can go way farther with the detail and all that. And like I said, Forger, it's just an app on the iPad, and it is a pretty impressive app, but it'll still do things like that, like crash. And now that I got it in ZBrush, I actually took it pretty far in Forger, probably farther than I normally would take a sculpt before pushing it over to ZBrush. But since I've done that, it makes the ZBrush part even easier. I just got to go in and sometimes redefine details that may have been smoothed over, or a lot of times in Forger you can't actually get a high enough poly count to add certain details where you want. So now that I can do that, I'll just go in and subdivide it a couple times, get it where I'm gonna have the ability to create a lot of detail, and then that's what I'm just doing now, just going in. Pretty much everything as far as basic anatomy is there. A lot of it now is just texturing, adding veins. Or here now you see I grabbed the alpha brushes and I'm going and texturing the dirt. Just stuff that you really can't do in Forger. Adding the grass, having the grass in Forger definitely would have made it crash. It's just so much individual items that I don't think the iPad would handle that well. Another benefit of ZBrush over Forger is poly painting, where Forger does have the ability to paint your models. It's not nearly as good as ZBrush's options. And normally like when I first got into ZBrush, I only started painting it just out of curiosity. I started with the Ender Dragon. I liked how that turned out. Then I started painting all my other models just to post on Instagram or for YouTube thumbnails. But actually, the more I do it, the more I like it. It comes in handy. Like here, it helps me distinguish where roots or rocks are going to be, and just helps give you a picture of what your finished model is going to look like once you 3D print it and paint it. Whereas if I didn't have this, I might not have thought about adding rocks or roots going through the dirt block. I just didn't think about it at that point. And now I'm adding a base, and it's supposed to be just a dirt base with a hole, which is where he's pulling the dirt block out of, and then grass. I kind of went back and forth between tall grass and short grass, but it really didn't make sense to have tall grass on the ground and then the dirt block that he picked up to have short grass. So I ended up going with short grass. And here you can see I'm trying to cut holes out of my grass mesh, and it's just taking forever and ever and ever, which is just another thing. Even though I have ZBrush, you still run into problems. It can't process everything, so sometimes you'll do something like that and then it'll take forever to load. And then that one ended up crashing, so I had to do it again, but I finally ended up getting a pretty good result. Alright, now I'm going through and texturing, and texturing is something I go back and forth on. It really just depends on sculpt to sculpt, whether it's my favorite part or my least favorite part. I think I'm slowly getting better at it, and in this particular case it was one of my favorite parts of sculpting the Enderman. I find if you just go light and not too heavy on the textures, it ends up looking a lot better. And then I'm going to go ahead and start painting. And one great thing about poly paint is you can do more than just paint it black. You could have lights and all those cool things affecting your model. And that's the finished sculpt. I have a couple pictures that'll play here in a minute, but if you liked it, consider liking, subscribing, follow me on Instagram. I have an Etsy shop and I got some products up there now if you're interested. This one's up there. So yeah, thanks for watching.